Hey, it's me, Maya. I've always got time to talk. However, I've realized I'm not so great about always having time to talk here on this podcast video situation, but I do want to get better at it. So today I'm going to share my final thoughts on The Last Shield by Cameron Johnston. I read this for our Wise Women's Fantasy Book Club. It was the May-June read, so I actually finished it with time to spare. It is a bit of, it's different than any of the other books we've read, right? It's definitely showing that wisdom from years lived and experience, which I find so valuable, and am learning to appreciate more in my own life, right? We're here at this kind of transition, me and people my age, in your, around 50s, you're revisiting everything that you've been through, and you can either look back and be sad about lost youth, or you can be appreciative of everything that you've learned and everything that how you've grown. And I love those stories. I love finding that and reminders of that. And this book does a good job of it. All right, so I've been doing a little bit better about annotating. You can see here is almost classic, all of my experiences with annotation. I'm much better at the beginning, and then when I get into the story at the end, I kind of just focus on reading. And this also is very kind of a ADHD like path, right? When I first begin a book, I'm slow about it. I need kind of something to keep me invested, and annotating does that for me because it kind of helps me like stay actively involved. And then generally how I read a book, I'll read a chapter, I'll read 2 chapters, I'll come back to it in a few days and read another chapter, and then I read the last like third of the book in one sitting and stay up till 4 in the morning. So overall I rated it 4 stars. It is a warrior story. It is about a woman who led the shields, which is the guards for the regent and the young soon-to-be king. It is magic. It's fantasy book club, so of course it has to have magic. But the magic is kind of a mystical kind of other thing. So our main character does not use magic, which is kind of unique in a lot of the fantasy stories. The main character is a magic user. This one is not that way. The world is magic, and she is a warrior in that magic world. So the big overall theme of this is a warrior coming back from injury and reassessing like what her abilities are. And it kind of takes, the kind of aging experience that we all go through, like, oh, I can't work a double at work anymore as a waitress without like the next day being completely spent. This is an exaggeration of what we all go through in a real serious injury. The first third of the book is a lot about just her own like processing this injury and what it means for her and her own like reality. And not to go into too much like specifics, but I have witnessed someone go through that very similar thing, and this was very realistic. It was spot on, in my opinion, on how hard it is, and the traveling through all of that and figuring all of that out and processing, and then also coming out on the other side and still having all of that knowledge and experience from, I'm gonna set this down, that knowledge and experience from years and years of being a warrior, or being whatever it is that you were before the injury, and how that still is of value even if you aren't the young, fully physically capable person that you were before. You still have a lot of worth and value. The book does a much better job of explaining that than I can here. It was a bit gory. I don't read a lot of sword slash fighting stories because it's not really my thing, but the emotional path that you went on with the main character made it okay. Like I didn't have to worry so much about the, you know, the blood and the kicking in of skulls because I could pass over that for the value of it. It wasn't something that just made me shut the book down and be done with it. So if you enjoy stories that are human and personality driven, this definitely is. And I think I find that almost all wise women books really have that human growth storyline. Even if it's not like front and center, it's definitely an integral part of it. Let's just open up a couple of my tabs and see what they say, and we can talk about that. This was one of the very first, this is the very first one I did. It says, I have highlighted, most of the personal and potent of all were the finger bones of those druids who had come before. So this was just like the introduction to the book. The druids were like dressed up and they had bones of past druids on them. And I think that kind of really gives you a kind of feel for, oh, yeah, this isn't just some little cutesy fairy tale book. Beheld only by the eyes of druids, curious but shy nature spirits observed the party as they walked the same ancient paths trodden by their ancestors. That was the first kind of hint that, oh, this is a fantasy book, right? There actually are shy nature spirits, which was kind of fun in a book that really focused on, like, because the main character was non-magic using, it really kind of kept us that magic as the peripheral. So that's even more now, having read the whole book, kind of really a cool way to say, you know, they watched. And then let's see, let's move forward a little bit. The insipid gods of Sunweld are not my gods. They have no hold over me. So one of the things that I did struggle with a little bit in this book was there are different realms and like how they all interact with each other. I think definitely there was like backstory built and they knew who these realms were and they definitely explained it to us, but for me, my mind could not grasp onto it. I really struggled there. I'm not saying it was the author's fault. It's definitely an ADHD problem for me. A lot of times with world building, I get those things complicated because like names don't stick in my head. So then it'll say something about a different realm and I'll just be like, wait, where was that? Was that the ones where this person happened or that did that? And it's really like and that is one of the reasons I love a map. A map makes a huge difference for me. And that is one thing missing in this book because a map helps me, my brain kind of map, whatever. You know, oh, Sunweld, that's our center space, or I can't remember the name. Even after having read this book and the other two realms, I can't remember their names. So that kind of thing always makes a big difference for me. Here is our introduction or description of Briar, our main character. Briar was ruthless, stubborn as stone, and she would have made for a superb assassin and a far richer woman had she not been cursed with a measure of loyalty and morality. And I think that's just lovely. And that's our character. That's the woman that we're following, right? Really unique in, she is a strong fighter, right? She's the head of the shields. Like, that's who she is. The Rendall, oh, see, that was the other name. I couldn't even remember. I have it highlighted. I couldn't even remember it. Priesthood claimed all arcane artifacts were holy items, directly touched by their gods. So you can see kind of the setup of this world. That's like, we have different sects and they have different, like, not just like not just their own political things, they have different magics and different so like all of it is very intriguing and interesting. But the story ends up really being about this woman who has to like it's most often compared to Die Hard, and I can see that having read the book, because she's like crawling around in these like hidden, falling down tunnels to try to defeat all of these bad guys. I don't want to like ruin the story for someone who hasn't read it, so I'm trying really hard to just set you up for a book and a story. There is one thing that I will complain about, and this is such a little thing. Throughout the book, she's killing off people, and this is a spoiler now. Too late now. If you're here, if you're still here, you're ready for spoilers. And she's counting them down, and she's like 30, 28, and then somewhere in the middle, she gives up counting them, and I kind of like feel like that payoff of her being like last one or something like that would have just felt so good. And I understand, like, it's the story, that's what they chose to do, the author, that's their choice. Man, when she stopped counting down, I was like disappointed. Otherwise, I'm really happy with the book. It is definitely like one of the things about the Wise Women's Fantasy Book Club is we're reading a lot of books a little outside of obviously any of our most perfect comfort zone, right? Somebody who doesn't always read, everybody reads fantasy, but there's so many types of fantasy, right? There's the sword and sorcery, there's fairy tale classics, retellings, there's now this cozy fantasy is what people are calling it. And I feel like you can get so comfortable in your one type that you miss so many great stories. And the Wise Women's Fantasy Book Club has brought all of these different stories together. And it's been really fun to jump from this heartrending story about the loss of your children in the Sword of Kaigan to one like this, The Last Shield, where it's not even a mother and she's just out there doing her best and, like fighting with her sword and her slingshot. And then silly ones where we're low fantasy and it's like there's the, oh goodness, you guys. This is the most, werewolves. It's like the most obvious word in the whole world. So werewolves, and she's, dealing with all of these. Suddenly she's finding there's magic in the real world, right? So there's so many fun books, and I'm really excited about reading every single one of them. We did have to put one down as a group and not finish it because of the timing and how dark it was when we're already kind of dealing with darkness in the world. So yeah, I don't know if that's useful, but at least I said something. I'm sharing something, and we'll get better at this as we go. I am doing the Indie Fantasy Addict Summer Reading Challenge. So over the next couple months, I'm going to try and read a whole lot of indie fantasy books, and I'm going to try and do a book review of every single one of them video-wise here, just to get more comfortable with this and start doing it so that it's actually helpful, not only for me to talk through what I read in the books, but for people listening and seeing this. So hopefully these will just improve. I know they will, because I get better by doing things. So anyway, last bit of this, I just want to compare this book to Water Weaver, my book. So Lara is very different from Briar. They are both at the same age and stage in their life, having just finished, what they did most of their lives, kind of looking at what's next. So that is similar, but Lara was a mother. Briar was a head of the guard. So a lot of, support, but both of them did a lot of supporting of each other or of those around them, there to protect those around them. So they do have a lot in common. And the difference being the last shield is more about when you have to reassess this and kind of step back a little bit from that role. And she stayed in that role in a different way, where Lara is stepping out into a whole new world, a whole new magical world, and going on adventures away from home. So I don't know. I mean, there's some similarities, but there's a lot of differences too. So anyway, and the magic systems are very different in the books too. So that is the world building is very different also. All right. Well, if you have gotten this far, thank you for listening. Follow me for more book reviews. And if you want to add a comment about how I can improve these, I am open to suggestions because I know I can for sure. So thank you. I'll see you all. I'm reading a really cute one about a dragon and a young kid who's locked in a tower with a very messy little girl or young woman. I don't know. I think I know what's going on here, but I'll tell you all about it in the next video.